if you are in a place that you feel stressed, overwhelmed, anxious, depressed, quite often you feel that you are meant for more, yet you are not achieving what more looks like to you in your mind's eye, it's probably because you're hitting what's known as an upper limit. When there's an upper limit, that means there are belief systems that you have to break through. Belief systems that make you feel like you're not deserving, you're not lovable, that you're not worthy. And if you feel like you're not deserving, you're not lovable, you're not worthy of success and happiness and abundance, financial freedom, a great relationship, a fit body, then why would you ever achieve it, right? So it is important to break through those limits. And I'm here to tell you that the reason that most people quit and never finish what they started is because they continually stack L's instead of W's. What I mean by that is you don't realize this, but you probably do things to set yourself up to fail in life. And these are micro things. But I can tell you that if you set the intention to wake up at a certain time, and so therefore you set your alarm clock to wake up at a certain time, and then you hit that snooze button, what did you do? You stacked the L. And I get it, man. What's the big deal? I just hit the snooze button, right? There's a lot of big deal to that because you told your subconscious mind that you will take 10, 12, 15 more minutes of mediocre sleep instead of getting up and dominating your life, doing what God or the universe has planned for your purpose, right? And therefore, throughout the whole day, you're going to subconsciously feel that pain gnawing away at you, that you broke a promise to yourself. And when you break a promise to yourself, you begin to erode your confidence. So think about this. If you think that you're meant for big goals and big dreams and you're meant to have big things and you're meant to change lots of lives and impact and inspire people, well, you probably need a lot of confidence. I don't think someone who stacks L's is a confident person. If you're always stacking losses, hitting the snooze button, saying you're going to go work out and you don't, saying you're going to eat clean and you don't, saying you're going to read a few pages out of a book and you don't, saying that you're going to call a friend because you haven't talked to them for a while and you don't, and all those things seem small and trivial until they add up over days, weeks, months, and years, and you have hardened your subconscious into knowing that you are an imposter, that you are not a promise keeper, and therefore your reputation with yourself erodes. Your reputation with yourself, as it turns out, is your confidence, right? And so if your confidence is low, how in the world are you going to make a lot of money, impact a lot of people, influence people, inspire people, have a lot of meaning, fulfillment, happiness? You're not. Instead, you're going to be suffering in silence, white-knuckling through life, anxious, depressed, and finding different addictions, vices, alcohol, infidelity, strip clubs, pornography to fill in the gap so that you can shield and soothe, to keep you from thinking about what you ought to be doing, and therefore you lean into the vices. The most damaging thing you could do is set low expectations for yourself and meet those low expectations. And people set those low expectations for themselves because they somehow got used to accepting average or mediocre as the standard. That should not be the standard for your life. Like, you deserve more. You are meant for more. You are not here as an accident. You know you feel the gnawing of greatness within you, that I'm supposed to do more. You know you're different than all your friends and the people that you hang out with. You know that you are here to help people, to serve people. But each time you ignore that calling, each time you are incongruent with your purpose, you begin to shield and soothe through vices, addictions, food, drugs, alcohol, whatever it might be, video games, binge watching television. So I'm here to tell you what would happen if you set high expectations for yourself. What would happen if you actually set higher standards for yourself? What would happen if you disconnected from people who are crop dusters and only hung out with fighter jets? In my book, Man Up, I talk about how there's two types of people in this world: crop dusters and fighter jets. Fighter jets are people who are driven by purpose, who lead themselves through discipline, focus, and consistency. And then crop dusters are people who are impulsive. Crop dusters are people who are emotional. Crop dusters are people who have vices and addictions that control them instead of them controlling the outcome of their lives. And what would happen if you just disconnected from the crop dusters in your life and actually leaned into higher standards, higher expectations. And then you started surrounding yourself with people who are of higher standards and higher expectations, because rising tides lift all ships, right? I don't want to be the smartest person in the room. I don't want to be the strongest person in the room. I don't want to be the most self-developed person in the room, because if I am, then I'm going to sink down to the average of the room. Instead, I want to come into a room and be the dumbest person so I could elevate up. I want to be the least self-developed so I can elevate up. I want to be the least strongest so I can elevate up. What are you doing to put yourself around people like that, who are of higher caliber, right? Who are of fighter jet material instead of crop duster material. And again, guys, I share this with you, and I'm going to lean on you on this because I know that you're meant for more. When I knew I had greater purpose, but I constantly lived like a human animal, impulsive, overate, didn't set high standards for myself, I felt, and then I did things like dating broken chicks and sabotaging myself at work and getting fired, eating emotionally. Like, that's literally slow suicide as far as I'm concerned. Like, if you know you're meant for more, you're meant to inspire, you're meant to have greater income, impact, influence, you're meant to be able to be an orator, you want to start your own YouTube channel, you want to start your own podcast, you want to start your own business, you want to start donating to your church and your charity that you believe in, but you're not, and you're dragging your feet on it. Every day that you drag your feet, your subconscious mind begins to punish you through anxiety, depression, overwhelm, all those things that you are feeling, that you are medicating yourself through video games and overeating and smoking weed and television and pornography, strip clubs, alcohol. I don't know. All those things are designed to shield you. You do that so you could shield yourself from feeling your calling. Why do we soothe and shield ourselves with drugs and vices and addictions? Well, it's simple. It's simple. No one gets out of life without having some emotional and mental scars. And emotional and mental scars end up creating stories. I'll give you a great example. As a young boy, between the ages of 4 and 6, I was molested by 2 older boys in Armenia, right? So I've experienced sexual abuse. When we escaped the Soviet Union and came to the United States, not only did my parents bring me to an amazing country of freedom and opportunity, what they don't realize is they freed me from a constant barrage of being molested. Now, you can imagine being molested, sexually abused, left emotional scars on me. It made me feel unlovable, made me feel broken, made me feel like I'm not worthy, made me not trust men. It made me feel anxious and depressed. Now, until I dealt with that, all those feelings were like this dark passenger that drove with me everywhere I went. And even when I tried to get in a great relationship, my dark passenger, little nod to Dexter, the TV show, right? My dark passenger was there to remind me that I'm a piece of that I'm not worthy, I'm not lovable, that I'm broken, and who would want me? So if that's your inner dialogue because you've dealt with sexual abuse, physical abuse, mental abuse, maybe you were bullied, I don't know what your situation was, but I can tell you that most of us, in fact, studies show that 1 out of every 3 people have had some kind of mental, physical, sexual abuse. And that abuse begins to cause these stories that you create in your head. And these are all stories that are inaccurate. They are false narratives. It's like you're wearing a false mask. They create insecurities in you. And you operate from a place of storytelling instead of reality. And once you start doing the self-work and you tap into self-mastery and you connect with higher consciousness and you begin to deal with the traumas that you've experienced, you know what ends up happening? You begin to rewrite a different story. You don't have to have this 1.0 version. You don't have to have this victim mentality. You don't have to go around telling everybody your sad story of what happened to you and why you're this way. You can go and rewrite the story. You can grab the pen back from the hands of the abusers, of the bullies, of those that created limiting beliefs, and you could rewrite the story yourself in all the blank pages that exist in your book of life. But that only happens when you start doing the self-work, when you commit to self-mastery. And I'm telling you, it's not just by reading a couple of self-help books. It is by working with a therapist. It is by doing the deep work. It is by going through things like the project. It is by putting yourself through hardship. It is by figuring out who you are at your core, at your essence, what makes you tick. And only then will you be able to set higher standards of expectations for yourself. Only then will you begin to reach the milestone of impact, income, influence, inspiration. God, it's such a cool thing to be able to break through the seals of all your limiting beliefs in life. Your past is not your future. You can heal. You can get past your traumas. You can fall back in love with the person that you are. You can inspire. You can influence. You can make more money. You can have greater meaning. You don't have to be depressed. You don't have to be addicted. You don't have to have the vices, but you do have to do the work. And when you do, you will take that pen back and start rewriting the next version of yourself. You get to decide what the next 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years look like. No one else.